Okay, so I'm sorry I had to do one more video. I didn't think I had enough time to cover these last two areas on the video, on the second video, so I just wanted to make sure that I had enough time. So we finished up with talking about learning preferences, understanding that those are connected to our personality, all right, and our learning techniques, understanding that we need to combine different techniques. Something may work one day, may not work the next day, may work for one topic or one subject, may not work for the next subject, may work in one situation, may not work in another situation. Getting used to experimenting, depending on what the situation is. So this leads us into the last two topics is making choices and intelligences. All right, understanding that our life is surrounded by making choices. All right, so we have to figure out goals, we have to evaluate each goal. We have a ton of different options, which is why we need to learn to think critically, think creatively, and evaluate each situation. So making choices is going to be important. We have to understand that sometimes there's this process called adaptation where we start to get used to things. Once we get used to things, we start taking them for granted. And with that, we want to go over something that happens a lot when it comes to learning style and learning preferences, and that's perceptual adaptation. And this is where we have a decreased responsiveness to sights, sounds, odors, and people as we continue to experience them. So the example I always give is I work in the athletic building. I walk past the football locker room all the time. People who aren't familiar walking past that football locker room may say and comment, usually it happens, about the smell that comes from the football locker room. Or if you don't spend a lot of time around athletes, people will comment on that. However, I've been around it my entire life. I am used to it. I have a perceptual adaptation or a decreased responsiveness to that situation. Okay, it's no different than anything else that you may have or that you come across in a daily basis, and I may not come across it. You would have a decreased responsiveness to it, whereas I wouldn't. Okay, that's part of just being human. The adaptation is going to be inevitable, and a lot of times that is linked to potentially showing or causing more disappointment towards people and what our choices when we make choices. So last but not least, we want to talk about a little bit about multiple intelligences, understanding that there are many different areas of intelligences and kind of what that's about. A while back, or many, many years ago, you heard a lot of people talk about IQ testing. And IQ testing, you took a test and you came out with one number, and you were either smart or you were not smart. You had a high IQ or you had a low IQ. And that's changed a lot. Changed a lot because of the study of Howard Gardner and understanding that there's this thing called human intelligence, and that is pretty much the human ability to solve problems. Okay, when we're solving these problems, it is something that is valued in at least one culture. We certainly know at this point in our life that there's many things that that are valued in one culture that may not be valued in another culture. So I give the example of the American culture values athletics. It values sports. Look at the amount of money that is put into the sports area. Other cultures may find that very, very foolish, but that is something that the American culture values. So there's 8 different intelligences: musical, logical, which is mathematical; body, which is kinesthetic, which would be like the sports or the athletics; the inter and intrapersonal; spatial, naturalist, and linguistic. A lot of different intelligences, and we have to understand that regardless of which intelligence we're tapping into, it is something that is valued into at least one culture. So again, we're relaying with our community. We're understanding that different things are valued in our community, different things are valued in each culture, and understand that there is a value to each and every single one of those. So that is where we're going to wrap up with chapter 6. And next videos, I will move on to Chapter 7 and Chapter 8. Hope you guys are having a great night, and we will see you on Tuesday.